A terrible scene at Tempe Town Lake over the weekend is generating conversations about domestic violence. Police tell us a 27-year-old man intentionally drove an SUV into the lake, killing himself, his estranged wife, and their 3 young children. For our next guest, the case reinforces the need to increase awareness and support, especially through an evaluation tool and a new state law. Here to tell us more is Maricopa Association of Governments Regional Domestic Violence Chair Robin Barker and City of Phoenix Prosecutor Amy Offenberg, who is also the Domestic Violence Liaison for the City of Phoenix. Thanks to both of you for coming in. Amy, we've got to address Tempe because it was such a horrible, horrible situation.
Absolutely.
As a prosecutor, how does that impact what you do when you go to work? Do you think, oh, what are we doing here? Or
you know, every time something like this happens, the first thing you do is go, did I ever deal with these people? And fortunately, this is not one who I ever dealt with, but that is the first reaction anytime there's a tragedy like this. And then you start thinking, how do we get involved? How do we help? How do we make sure something like this doesn't happen again?
We do want to let people know throughout our conversation we're going to be putting up a website and a phone number that people can write down. They can call themselves or reach out if they're interested in getting help themselves or they want to help somebody else. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Robin Mag is using it to spread the word about a tool that's being used to help identify victims who are most at risk of being killed.
That's correct.
Tell us about the tool. What's it called and how does it work?
The tool is called a lethality assessment, and what it is in simple terms is a list of questions that a police officer or a victim advocate might ask a victim. They go through these questions and they assess how dangerous the situation is that they're in. And this tool is very valuable in 3 different areas, really. First of all, it gives the victim a real sense of the danger. Sometimes domestic violence victims don't realize how much danger they're in. They've adjusted to that. It gives the police officer or the victim's advocate an idea of what kind of danger this is and gives them an idea of what kind of resources they may need to get to this victim as soon as possible. And then thirdly is the judicial side. After the passage of House Bill 64 or 2467 and its implementation in July, now judges have the authority to go ahead and use the results of that lethality assessment when they're dealing with domestic violence cases.
Amy, are you aware and very familiar with these questions? I've got a list. There's 18 questions,
Right.
so it's a lot of questions that are being asked. Can you talk about some of them and why they're asked and what happens with the responses?
Sure, and Phoenix actually uses a very abbreviated version. The Phoenix Police Department uses a 4-question assessment when they are out on scene. And the 4 questions the Phoenix Police Department uses are: how frequently and seriously does your partner intimidate you or threaten you? How frequently does your partner demand you do things and verify that you did them? And describe the most frightening or worst event involving your partner. And have you ever made it known to your partner that you wanted to leave? Now, for women who are involved in these situations, when they leave is the most lethal time in a lot of situations. So the police are really looking in those situations for, if they've made their desire to leave known, how the partner has reacted. Also, use of weapons is a strong indicator of future lethality. So they're looking for indication that there are weapons involved in previous situations.
So what happens with those responses? Because we know that oftentimes, you know, a 911 call is made, an officer goes out, asks these questions, and then what?
They do go into the police report, and then they're used in several ways. The Phoenix Police Department, a detective reviews them, and they classify them into 3 different groups. The group 1s are where they see controlling behavior with violence. The group 2s are controlling behavior but no violence, so your stalking cases. And the group 3 is where there's no indication of controlling behavior. So the police divide them into these groups, which we as prosecutors then use for various reasons in our office. Judges are also hearing about this. As Vice Mayor Barker stated, the legislature allowed the judges to hear the results of this in determining bail. So now when a person arrested for a domestic violence crime goes before a judge is hearing the results of the questions and is able to consider those in setting bail. And we've seen higher bonds in cases where there's indications of controlling behavior.
According to Meg's website, there's an Arizona family every 30 minutes that's turned away from a shelter. So is there any follow-up, Robin? I mean, is there any response and help available if someone says, I need help and I got to get out, but I go to a shelter, they tell me it's full?
Well, there is a national helpline that can be called, who will in turn refer that person to a closer situation here. And yes, shelter beds are a problem. You know, keeping enough beds available for the victims that are out there. But I believe that that's a problem that we are cognizant of, and we are trying very hard to take care of that as best we can, to make more people aware of it, which helps to build more of it, etc.
As the region's domestic violence chair, did you come across anything, have you come across anything that really surprised you or struck you or made you go, I had no idea?
Lots of things, yes. The press conference on Friday, though I had an idea, I didn't hear it so starkly. Amy told a story of an older woman whose son was abusing her. This is domestic violence. And the woman ended up dead. Is that correct, Amy?
It is.
Which just stymied me. I mean, you think of domestic violence as partners that are younger. You don't necessarily think of children and parents and so forth.
What has been your experience, Amy? You mentioned women, and we know that in most cases women are the victims. Of course, both genders can be victims as well, but is there a certain age range, socioeconomic, education level?
Domestic violence can affect anybody, all socioeconomic ranges, all ages, all nationalities. Nobody is immune from it, no group.
So throughout our conversation, we've been showing the website and the phone number. What advice would you give somebody who thinks they need help or someone who wants to help someone?
First, if you're in danger, obviously call 911 immediately. And that's the best thing you can do. Other than that, there are a lot of really great resources out there. The Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence has a wonderful website and have a lot of resources to help people who are looking to get out of an abusive relationship. Also, Phoenix has gone to a centralized screening for shelter. So there's one number you can call and get all of the information you need for available shelter beds throughout the Phoenix area. Also, there are a lot of family advocacy centers throughout the valley. Phoenix has one. There's one in the East Valley and one in the West Valley. All of those are staffed with victim advocates, police officers, and others who can provide assistance to people who need help or are trying to help somebody else in a domestic violence situation.
Amy Offenberg, Robin Barker, thank you both for coming in and sharing your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.